Football's biggest story doesn't start with Messi, Ronaldo, or a World Cup final. It starts in a cramped room in Paris. No TV, no sponsors, just a few angry men who were done letting England control the game. Different countries, different rules, constant chaos. One sport, but no one in charge. Out of that mess, they created a new power. FIFA. A tiny idea that would grow into the empire now ruling 211 nations, billion-dollar tournaments, and the dreams of billions. This is where football stops being just a game and becomes politics, power, money, and scandal. Chapter 1. The epic saga begins. FIFA's history is not only about the sport's global rise, but also filled with secrets, power plays, and scandals, making it one of the most fascinating stories in sports. The FIFA saga began in Paris in 1904, where delegates from several European federations, France, Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands, Spain, through Madrid FC, and Switzerland, with Sweden also involved early in FIFA's formation, met to found the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, FIFA, an organisation that today governs 211 national associations and shapes billions of football dreams. At its inception, there was no vision of a World Cup, only a need to reduce chaos in a sport riddled with clashing rules and conflicting regulations. England's Football Association had codified the rules of the game and long defended strict amateur ideals, which frustrated continental nations eager for a more inclusive and professional international game. Tension grew around international matches and conflicting regulations, illustrated in encounters such as a 3-3 France-Belgium draw in 1904. Robert Guérin, a French journalist and secretary of the French Football Association, rallied like-minded nations to unite under a single federation to coordinate international football. The meeting on May 21, 1904, at 229 Rue Saint-Honoré in Paris, led to the creation of FIFA, with Guérin becoming the first president and the foundation laid for standardizing the sport worldwide. Chapter 2. Roots of Revolution. The roots of this upheaval trace back to the late 19th century, when football was transforming from rough local matches into organised clubs and leagues. England's Football Association had codified the sport's rules in 1863, laying the foundations of the modern game, including defined team size and limits on handling the ball. However, the FA's restrictive and insular approach, including long-standing resistance to professionalism in its early decades, sparked tension. The continent's diversity in playing styles and governance, flair in the Netherlands, grit in Denmark, passion in Spain, precision in Switzerland, clashed with England's conservative outlook, causing disarray during early international encounters. The scramble to unify these styles intensified as matches were often marred by confusion and dispute over which rules applied. Amidst this friction, the 1904 France-Belgium draw became one of the sparks that pushed efforts to create a global governing body to end fragmentation. Guérin's move to gather 7 nations was both strategic and ambitious, challenging England's informal dominance over the game's direction and encouraging the British associations to later engage with FIFA, with England joining in 1905. Chapter 3. The Historic Meeting. The historic May 21st meeting was a gritty affair. In a small Paris room, delegates debated fiercely over the federation's structure and rules. The principle of one association, one vote began to take shape, foreshadowing a more democratic model of football governance. Financially strapped and operating on tiny budgets, early FIFA relied on commitment rather than profit. In the following years, FIFA promoted the uniform application of the laws of the game as set by the International Football Association Board across member associations, reinforcing consistency in how football was played internationally. Guérin's vision extended beyond governance. He supported international matches to build camaraderie and test these shared rules. England, initially sceptical of the new body, eventually joined, signalling a shift in power dynamics between the British associations and the continental federations. The 1908 London Olympics, where FIFA played a growing role in organising international football, showcased its rising influence and helped pave the way for the later creation of the World Cup. Chapter 4. Early struggles and controversies. Yet the early years of FIFA were marked by internal tensions and political manoeuvring that modern fans might recognise. Guérin did not include England in the founding meeting, but there is no clear evidence that this was an act of deliberate retaliation. The founding members were a mix of passionate amateurs and officials wary of unchecked professionalism, and some delegates expressed concerns about how professionalism might affect the sport's character. Internal politics, clashes over leadership, language barriers, and national pride all contributed to friction inside the young organisation. Guérin was replaced in 1906 when Daniel Burley-Woolfall, an English administrator, took over the presidency and worked to stabilise FIFA and integrate the British associations more fully into its structure. Women's football, meanwhile, suffered from institutional neglect. National associations such as England's FA imposed bans. FIFA did little for decades to actively challenge these decisions, leaving the women's game marginalised at official levels until much later in the 20th century. Concerns about favouritism and opaque decision-making in international football also appeared over time, planting early doubts about how power and influence were exercised. Chapter 5. Rise and Global Expansion. Despite these troubles, FIFA grew steadily, navigating the difficult post-World War I era when international football itself almost halted. The 1928 Amsterdam Congress represented a watershed moment when Jules Rimet, FIFA's long-serving president, pushed for the establishment of a standalone World Cup, independent from the Olympics. The first tournament in 1930, held in Uruguay, was a daring gamble and a logistical challenge, with 13 nations travelling long distances to compete. The packed Estadio Centenario hosted a historic final in which Uruguay claimed victory as FIFA cemented itself as football's primary global organiser. The subsequent decades brought growth through European reconstruction, the spread of television, and expanding global memberships as FIFA survived the disruptions of World War II and the Cold War. By the mid-20th century, FIFA's membership had expanded far beyond its European roots to include many newly independent nations, and today it comprises more than 200 member associations. This growth coincides with ever-increasing revenues, broadcasting deals, and unprecedented global reach, culminating in billions of viewers tuning in to modern World Cups. Chapter 6. The Dark Side Exposed. Behind the glittering trophies and grand stadiums lies a darker side of FIFA's history, rumours and then confirmed cases of corruption that shocked the global community. The 2015 FIFA corruption investigations marked a low point for the organisation's reputation when US authorities indicted more than 40 football officials linked to FIFA and regional confederations on charges ranging from racketeering and wire fraud to bribery and money laundering. Senior figures, including then Secretary-General Jerome Valcke, were investigated and later banned from football-related activities over alleged improper payment schemes linked to World Cup broadcasting and marketing rights. Various investigations and independent reports highlighted long-standing governance failures and allegations of vote buying and unethical conduct in connection with World Cup host selections, with particular scrutiny on the bidding processes for the 2018 and 2022 tournaments. The fallout led to the suspension and eventual departure of President Sepp Blatter after many years at the top of FIFA. The scandal exposed how FIFA's structures had been vulnerable to abuse for personal gain, shaking fans' trust globally and prompting reforms, ethics reviews, and renewed calls for transparency and accountability. Chapter 7. Extremes and Reflections. FIFA's storyline is one of extremes, groundbreaking strides in uniting a fragmented sport, creating the world's richest football spectacle and fostering dreams for billions, but shadowed by power struggles, institutional sexism, and repeated allegations of misconduct. For much of the 20th century, FIFA did little to organise or promote women's international football, indirectly allowing national associations like England's FA to enforce bans that sidelined female athletes until the late 20th century. These realities remind us that behind the majestic World Cup spectacle is a complex human story of ambition, resistance, failure, and passion. As FIFA prepares for the expanded 2026 World Cup with 48 teams across 3 North American countries, the first World Cup jointly hosted by 3 nations, the legacy of its turbulent past continues to shape its present and future. Fans worldwide watch closely to see whether the organization's global ambitions can move beyond earlier failures and genuinely help democratize the beautiful game. Chapter 8. The Enduring Legacy. The epic history of FIFA ultimately teaches us why determined reformers reshaped football, why the game's rules and rights remain fiercely contested, and how a small group gathered more than 120 years ago gave rise to a global powerhouse with both light and dark sides. From early meetings in Paris to vast stadiums shared by billions, FIFA embodies the wild, chaotic, and magnetic journey of football itself, an indomitable force that continues to shape cultures, nations, and dreams every 4 years. So when you hear the FIFA anthem or see the World Cup trophy lifted high, remember the ambition, the compromises, and the controversies behind the scenes that made it all possible. This story is far from over. The saga of FIFA continues to unfold with drama and reform, showing that in football, as in life, power, passion, and controversy remain permanently intertwined. Whether viewed as a unifying institution or a deeply flawed empire, FIFA's founding and evolution remain among the most compelling narratives in sports history, defined by ambition, contradiction, and an enduring love for the beautiful game.